The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of Bermuda's Feel Good Early Morning Show. Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. Do remember, for the month of August, you can save 5% off of any Pizza House order when you sign up for their online ordering. So visit pizzahouse.bm to get signed up today. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert, and we are ready to bring you some feel good vibes this morning. Our feel good topic of the day is catching flights and feelings. We're going to be discussing the tourism stats that Bermuda Tourism Authority put out for Q2 of 2021. We're also going to get into our feel good vibe of the day, which is joke time with Jackie. And if this is your first time joining us, I'm going to try to guess what the answer to the corny joke is, and you're going to show what your reaction is to the joke and my response. But before we get into all of that, let's see who's tuned in with us as we get into our feel good warm up of the day. Good morning to you, Sean Smith, and welcome once again to another episode. As you're joining us, say good morning, say good day. We've seen people do the good day trend because, you got to stay on brand over here. We like to stay on brand. We talked about marketing yesterday, so we're trying to keep things consistent. So, audience, as you're joining us, we do have a question for you all, which is our feel good warm up question. You're going to answer this in the comments, and Jackie and I are actually going to tell you about our evening last night. So, audience, how long do you think it will take for Bermuda's Tourism Authority to recover from the panorama, aka the pandemic? And Jackie and I are not going to answer this question today. We're going to get you all to answer it for us. So let us know in the comments how long you think it'll take our tourism industry to recover from the pandemic. I see we have our brother Larry Marshall Jr. in there. Morning. You made it. You made it. You made it. We're going to talk about that in a second, y'all. Rashida Gobbin is in here with us. Good morning and greetings to you, Rashida, and good morning to Taja. So, Jack, as the audience are answering this question, let's tell them about last night. Because if you remember, I want to say, I don't know if it was last week Friday, because I didn't even check the episode number, but we had Sumner on, Bobby Sumner, who does Wednesday
Friday.
Night. Okay, it was last week Friday. Wednesday Night Vibe, no ass. And so Jackie and I went. And so Jack, okay, tell them what happened when we got there, and then I'll tell them about the performance. Get here. When we got there.
Okay, so when we got there, we walked in.
Wait,
we listened
who
a
was
little
there
bit.
with us? Who was there with us?
Larry.
Okay.
Marshall Jr. He just said good morning to us. So we walk in, we find a spot to stand at the back, and I'm just like, I gotta use the bathroom. I have to tinkle. So we go out, and there's a long line. So I just wanted to come. Well, it wasn't a long line. It was one person.
I was like Bermudian. It was
it was one person. So I went, and I was just like, hi, are you in line? Are you waiting for somebody? She's like, I'm in line. I was just like, oh, okay. Is somebody in? Like, somebody's definitely in there, right? She's like, yes. So I was just like, well, what about the man's bathroom? She's like, yeah, there's somebody in there. I was like, oh, okay. So a guy walks out. So I'm like, was it just you? He's like, no, there's one more person. I'm like, okay, cool. So he's just like, whatever. So then the last guy comes out, and I'm just like, is nobody else in there, right? He's just like, yeah, you could get hit. So I slip in, and as I'm going, as I get in, and I'm starting the process, I heard Terry say, oh, you can't go in there. There's somebody in there. And he's just like, and? So Terry, you can take over.
So the person was Mr. Photo. He was like, Terry, what are you saying? I'm like, I'm gonna talk about you. I'm gonna talk about you, my set. I'm like, whatever, bro. Because Jacky and I sent an back. So I'm like, no, he's not gonna do that. So as we go back inside, right before his set, Bobby comes. He's like, oh, you guys are looking for a seat. So he gets us an extra seat. So we're moving up to the front. We're trying to bring Larry, but Larry's like, nah, I ain't having that.
He's like, I am not sitting at the front with you lot.
We're not doing that. So Jacky and I go sit at the front, and literally 5 seconds after we sit down, Sean's like, oh yeah, let me tell you guys this story. And literally he tells his story. Obviously he over exaggerated a little bit, but he definitely let the audience know that ladies tend to commandeer the men's bathroom. And after Jacky went in there, after Sean left, 2 gentlemen came after that, and they were really like looking at me like, you're serious? I'm like, yeah, you guys can't get in there. They're like, but wait, what do you mean? It's that's the men's bathroom. I was like, yeah, but not right now. Like, yeah, but not right now.
Here's my thing. Most of the time, you'll see guys peeing in the trees. So there's only one bathroom at Ocean View for the women, like one stall, and then the guys have the bathroom, like the actual toilet area, and then the urinal. Why y'all have more than us? Like,
I don't know.
And you don't even use it half the time. So come on, y'all have all those trees that you usually use the bathroom in. I
mean, public indecency, but definitely it was.
I get it, but
it was funny for me because I'm standing outside being the security guard because I couldn't even go back inside to find Larry because we also lost Larry. Is only 2 spaces in Ocean View. How we lose Larry, I don't know, but we lost Larry. So it was definitely good vibes last night. Audience, as you're joining us, let us know how long you think it will take Bermuda's Tourism Authority to recover from the panorama, aka the pandemic. And the reason why I wanted to start with our evening last night is because there are things for locals to do. We are a part of the tourism, I guess, industry sector, and so we should be going out and experiencing our island. We have to be the local ambassadors because as tourists come in, who do they ask for instructions, directions, for places to go? I would have loved to see some tourists out last night. They probably wouldn't have known what some of the words were being said. However, they probably would have had a great local experience. Jamal is in here with us. He said he's tired, but he's here. So as long as you're here listening in the background,
that's what so happy I'm not alone because I sleep at like 12:30 and then I woke up and I was just like, oh my God, what time is it? And I looked, I'm like, oh, it's only 2 o'clock. So
no, it's only 2 o'clock.
I still have time. I have 4 more hours. And then I woke up and it's 3:30. What is wrong, Jack? And then I woke up again and it was 5. I'm like, you know what? I quit. We're here. I started walking through my house. I opened up all my windows, my doors. I put in a little laundry. I lit my sage. I actually have my sage here. I keep playing with it.
Just a piece of sage she's working with. Looks like we have Karen Edwards Simmons in here. Good morning to you, Karen. Audience, as you are joining us, let us know in the comments how long you think it will take Bermuda Tourism Authority to recover from the pandemic. Sean Smith says, without knowing BTA's plans to get the Bermuda tourism industry back on track, I would say about 10 years to get back to pre-COVID times. I personally think that's a pretty conservative number, if we're being honest, when you take into consideration the fact that current Bermuda doesn't have much to entertain their locals with, let alone their tourists. So I'm really interested to see what happens over the next year as far as events starting to come out. You know, government just released some new restrictions last evening via Twitter. So
that's what I was about to say. I'm just like, well, it's gonna be super slim to nothing very soon. But I mean, when tourists come in and they test, they get their safe key automatically. So they might be okay.
I mean, but it also depends on what offerings we have too, right? And we
have
this comment
much
from Rashida. She says it's very fluid and hard to predict. I think one of the reasons why we asked this question is because what are some ways that we as the Bermuda public can support the tourism industry? Because at the end of the day, we're primarily going to be the people that have to keep our tourism. Yeah, not only South the Island, but keep certain industries going. Like we can't just say, okay, there's no tourists, so there's no tourism industry. Like, I mean, sure, the word is in there, tourists, but we can become local tourists. And I think it's unfortunate that we don't talk about what other offerings are out there for us to enjoy, which is why we wanted to talk about Wednesday Night Vibe, because if you've never been, and you're on the island of Bermuda, you need to plan to go. It moves around. If you didn't catch that episode with Sumner, do make sure you watch the replay, because he did let you know that it moves around the island. So at some point, it's going to be in your neighborhood. So there's no excuse for you not to go. We have this comment from Karen Edwards Simmons, Jack.
I was thinking about 15 to 20 years when I'm older. I can't. I'm thinking about like 15 to 20 years from now. For me, I'll be in my 50s.
Sounds about right.
And that's when tourism's going to be back. Like, that's how I sit there. I'm just like, I'll be 50 and it will be pre-pandemic. That's crazy.
I won't even be able to do carnival like I used to, but it's okay because it'll be past my time.
Yes, you will. We'll have our knees, and if we won't have our knees, we could do those walkers. I actually saw a lady in Trinidad with her walker, and she was chipping down the road. She had her little tennis balls on the back, and she was.
So Jackie, y'all, if you see Jackie and I have our walkers decorated, don't judge us. You heard it here first.
Those things are expensive.
The walkers, yeah, they definitely are expensive. And to decorate it is definitely going to be expensive.
Exactly.
Well. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to get into the statistics that the BTA released recently. I want to say it was this week that they released it. I'm on their email list. That's why I knew it. I got it. Talked about email marketing yesterday as well. So when we get back, we're going to play a little bit of game with you. We're going to definitely have some questions for you to answer around the numbers. Don't worry if you haven't read the numbers yet. That's the point of today's episode. So do make sure you do not go anywhere. Jackie and I will be right back.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app, available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
Greetings and welcome back to Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pete's House and Aliana's Restaurant. Do remember that for the month of August, when you sign up to pizzahouse.bm for online ordering, you will save 5% off of your order. So head over to pizzahouse.bm today and get signed up. Today's feel-good topic of the day is that Jackie and I are going to be catching flights and feelings. We're talking about the BTA tourism stats. And before we get into that, our feel-good warm-up question, we asked the audience how long do they think it'll take for our tourism authority to recover. Not necessarily looking for pre-pandemic numbers, but that would be great. And so we have two comments that I want to get into before we talk a little bit more specifically about the tourism stats. So Karen says Bermudians have been and should be the best ambassadors for tourism, but we need to experience what is out there for ourselves. Absolutely agree. And I definitely want to just stick with that for a little while because, Jackie, okay, so we were already out pretty late last night, y'all. So let's first start there as well. We talk about this conversation. So, Jack, why did you want us to go to Wednesday Night Vibe last night?
So I'm big on experiencing Bermuda. I love playing tourist, and it's fun. It's comedy. You get out with your friends. Some people don't even know where the clubhouse is or where Ocean View is, or they do know where it is and they've never actually been there. And it's a nice, small Black-owned establishment. Mm. And I'm big on promoting Black businesses and getting the word out there. And Sumner's doing a great job. Robert Sumner, and then of course you have Firebane. Mm-hmm. Everybody's just doing a great job, and it's entertainment. We don't have spaces that push comedy and open mic. We used to have Chew Stick, but if you don't know, that burned down 2000 and
oh yeah, Johnny from you on the year, but it was definitely a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago, and we need comic relief, and especially during this time. So I was just like, all right, let's go, let's support our locals, let's support our people, and then of course we need to be able to promote our island, and we can't promote our island if you don't know our island. And Terri, you've never been, so I was just like, yep, we're going. And then of course we had Jamal Hartman. He's here for a little bit, so he was just like, let's go. Everybody has to experience it at least once, and if you like it, then come back. And if you don't, and it's not your thing, at least you gave it a chance. You gave it a try.
Exactly. And I did enjoy myself. Those that performed were really great. And there was a group that came that didn't have a name. They wanted to perform, but they didn't have a name. And so they got dubbed the Crew last night. The Crew, however you want to pronounce it or say it. But they were really good. They really did a really great job. So shout outs to everyone that performed last night at Wednesday Night Vibe. No S. And shout outs to Sumner and Firewayne for being the host. And 3 Lion Sounds was the DJ last evening. To shout out to all of this, gentlemen. We have another comment from Sean Smith, Jack.
Well, it depends on what products are made available, like a large-scale super yacht dock in St. George's.
And that's around, our tourism industry coming back from the panorama that we are currently living in. We're trying to move beyond the pandemic, right? And that's why we wanted to talk about this as well, because we have spent the better part of a year and a half talking about Rona, what she's doing to the world. And it's really time for us to move beyond the pandemic and talk about what's the next things that we can do. So we have this comment from Sheldon Eugene Fox II, and then we're going to start talking about the Bermuda Tourism Authority statistics that they released. So Sheldon says, we can save the industry by not bad-mouthing Bermuda on all social media platforms. If you build it, they will come. Stop waiting on government to create experiences. General public need to take on responsibility for ourselves to get the results that we want. Absolutely agree. So next Wednesday Night Vibe, you guys better make sure you're there.
So as Michael Jackson said, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways.
Hey. That is how you get started with the feel-good topic of the day. So first question for the audience. It's 2021. The world is opening. And we want to know, have you traveled? And if so, was it for business? Was it leisure or medical or both? And we know that so Jacky and I went live on Instagram last night. So if you're not following us, either of us on Instagram, do make sure you follow us. We went live to preview today's show, and we actually found out that a good bit of our audience members on Instagram had traveled. Most of it was back to Bermuda. Their last trip anyway was back to Bermuda. One person was coming from the UK, and another person had gone to the US. And we had a guest on our show last night who had actually remembered her last trip being New Zealand. And I just want to preface this. She is a child. And Jacky and I realized we have done ourselves a disservice in our 30s. I have not been to New Zealand, and we need to sort ourselves out. So audience, let us know, have you traveled in this year 2021? And if so, was it for business, leisure, medical, or both? Have you been anywhere, Jack? I don't know if you answered that last night, to be honest.
Yeah, I went cup match. It's on St. George's.
Okay. So last night on the live, someone said to Bermuda, and I was like, so wait, like you mean you went from St. George's to Dockyard? Like, is that what we're doing here, everyone? Is that what we're saying? That if we travel on the island, that's going to be travel? Okay. So
I mean, you know how people always say St. George's is another country, you have to take the bridges and all that stuff. So I was just going with what some of those St. Georgians say. Is that a word? St. Georgians? It is today, guys. I mean, all words are made up, so technically
it's a word. It's a word. So it looks like Shika Rena says she's only traveled home to Bermuda. Shika, where did you come from? Did you come from like the UK, the US, Canada? Well, Canada was close, so never mind. Not Canada, but probably definitely either the US or the UK. We have this comment from Anita, and I will say, Anita, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to see the entire comment, but we'll try to read as much as we can. This is in reference to, I don't know, can we get ourselves out of the way? So I can, okay, can't.
Sit up higher. This is pure joke.
So videos, pardon myself and Jacky, but we're gonna read it anyway. So Anita says it's going to take at least several years. This is in reference to restoring our tourism industry. 2 of the island's major resorts are closed, and we really don't know when they will be renovated or reopened. Also, with only 1 cruise ship sailing around to different docks, it doesn't begin to cover the number of tourists needed for the economy. My first visit to our beautiful island was in 1986. There was a lot more entertainment when I first started visiting, including the Follies show at the Southampton Princess. The Clock Tower Mall is empty. Let's talk about the Clock Tower Mall while we're waiting for the audience to let us know if they've traveled this year, because she said the Clock Tower Mall is empty, like legit, it's empty. And I remember in our younger years.
Wait, so does that mean does that mean that the Haagen-Dazs ice cream spot's not there anymore? Like the.
But I don't know if that's anymore. But I know what you mean. I know what you're talking about, right? Is that anymore specifically? Because I'm talking about like when you first come into Dockyard.
Right, that Clock Tower Mall. It used to be.
I thought the Haagen-Dazs spot was like by the ferry stop.
Sorry, there's two ice cream spots. There's one as soon as you walk in, but I don't know what it's called. And then there's Haagen-Dazs over by where Kristen's used to be. I don't know if Kristen's is still there.
I don't think Kristen's is there.
I need to go walk through our ghost town of Clock Tower, clearly.
And but to that point, like I remember when we were younger, there was shops in the Clock Tower. I mean, I didn't really shop in them, but I remember like as a kid, you browse, you look for some little trinket or something to take back to your house, even though you're from Bermuda, you still wanted to take something. But I do remember that experience, and just having that nostalgic moment now is sad because I think about the children that are not going to be able to like say, I remember when I used to walk through Clock Tower and get my ice cream and sit off on the little benches and just eat my ice cream real fast. Like, let's say it. So Sheikah says that she traveled back from Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay, so that's actually the newest gas gateway city for us from the U.S., which is interesting because I've actually never been to North Carolina. Have you, Jack?
Yeah, I did a tournament out there.
Okay.
It was cold. It's beautiful. And if you go in the wrong spots, it's dangerous.
Welcome to
took one wrong turn and I'm like, hey Simone, I'm not sure if we're in the right spot. She's like, oh, what's your landmark? And I told her, she's like, get in the car and drive away now. And I'm like, Bill, my coach, Bill Adams, I'm like, and he's a dark skinned guy and I'm like, get in the car now. Get in the car right now.
You gotta go. We gotta go. So we have a comment from Sheldon Eugene Fox II. He said, I've traveled twice, UK transient back through the US last fall and the US a few weeks ago. Interesting. And Anita says, yep, the stores are all closed at the Dockyard. That's so sad. I think the only things that are open then are the restaurants, really and truly, because you can still dine. I think the shopping experience is going down because there's not that many tourists coming up there. Very few locals are coming up there too. So that's definitely a sad reality, but we're definitely going to have a little bit more conversation around the tourism industry and what we can do to support. So we have a comment from Larry Marshall Jr., Jack.
I traveled twice for medical. Not fun, but was so happy to be off the island. Appreciated traveling. I feel like he said it in that way, so that's how I
don't think he did, but it's okay, Jack. It's okay. Audience, as you're joining us, if you have not, let us know if you traveled in 2021. Let us know in the comments and let us know if it was for business, leisure, medical, or both. We're going to transition to another question. We want to know, when you travel, what are your preferred accommodations? Because when we read through the stats of the Tourism Authority's Q2 numbers, it was interesting. Well, not really interesting to know that this is the case because it kind of is obvious, but it's also interesting to just see how our tourists spend their time when they're not perusing our island and where they're laying their heads. So audience, let us know in the comments, when you travel, where do you prefer to stay? Is it a hotel? Are you in the Airbnb space? Do you go stay with your friends and family? Are you doing, timeshare? Like, let us know in the comments, what your preferred accommodations are. Jack, when you travel, what are your preferred accommodations?
Depends on the trip. No, seriously. If I'm going to visit like friends and family, I'm going to stay with them. If I'm going up for like a girls trip, I'd like to stay at a resort, or if it's in the city, a hotel. Like for example, when I go to New York, I usually stay at the Hyatt, and then I could just go right downstairs and catch the train. Or it's actually really good for this is going to sound bougie, for my driver to pull up. It's just like the perfect hotel because, of course, the movie I Am Legend. Have you ever seen it? Where Will Smith actually gets tied up and the dog's like barking at him, wake up, wake up. Okay, so that actual spot that he drives up to is going up to like where the Hyatt is.
Okay.
So you could drive right in. It's a lot easier for my driver to get through. So that's one thing. But if I'm traveling for competition, I like to stay as close to the tournament as possible. So if I can find an Airbnb, it also depends on how many people. So it's like whole slew of us, I'd do an Airbnb, like a house.
Right.
Rent a car.
Right. So we actually have a comment from Karen Bennett. We were asking about have people travel recently. She said no travel, especially since it takes over 10 weeks to get your passport back from renewal. Woo, child. Like, as the audience is answering or letting us know their preferred accommodations, like my mom just actually did that for my cousin to get his passport renewed. It's been like so crazy trying to get this child's passport renewed. At this point, I'm just like, should I just start applying for my passport renewal now? Like, mine's like not up until like another 5 years, I think. But I'm like, should I start now? Because it's taken months on months to just get this darn thing off the island to be started the renewal process. I'm like, you might get this before your next birthday, maybe? Question mark? His birthday's in February. So there is that. We have a comment from Shika Reina, Jack.
I'm also apparently I like hotels with rooms with 2 double beds. Most resorts now focus on rooms with 1 bed only. Yeah, I like to have 2 beds because I don't want to unload my suitcase into the drawers. I like to lay my clothes on the other bed.
Jack's like, I need a bed for my clothes and a bed.
And then I hang my, if I'm got jackets and stuff, I'll hang them up and I store my suitcase in the closet. But I like to lay my clothes out.
So why don't you like to use the drawers?
Because, like, termites, bugs, I just don't trust. I mean, like, I should trust hotels because if I could put it on the bed, I should be able to put it in the drawers. And if I'm staying there, it should be some type of cleanliness going on. But I don't know. It's just I don't know who else's stuff's been in there. What's been in there? Like, can you imagine I put something in there and then I go through and they scan me and they're just like, oh, what substance is on you? And I'm like, I don't know. I put it in the hotel drawer.
Whatever was in the drawer, sir. I don't know. Right. We have another comment from Karen. She says accommodations must have amenities. So restaurants, spas, sporting activity, etc. I agree. Like if I'm doing a hotel, it has to have, I need a gym. If you don't have a gym, I'm not staying there. I don't care. Whatever. I'm not staying there. And I know that time I probably won't use the gym for like the treadmill and stuff like that. I'll use it for the weights because I'm not carrying weights on my travel. I can run around the block, but I need some weights. So if you don't have a gym, kind of just like, nah, it's going to be a no for me. We have a comment from Sean Smith, Jack.
I tend to stay at Marriott hotels because I cannot live without room service, swimming pools, and in-house restaurants.
So yeah, the amenities are definitely a plus for hotels. I think that's what makes them a little bit better for, like you said, certain trips, right? Because other trips you probably wouldn't mind an Airbnb or a situation where you have to cook for yourselves. Unless you're fancy like them Real Housewives and you can have a chef, because I've seen on some of their girls' trips, like they be going to like bread and breakfast spots, but then they got these chefs, and I'm like, well, let me step my financial game up so I can have a chef. We have another comment from Anika Deshil. She says, I cannot wrap my head around everything that's needs to be considered to travel, requirements of the destination, return PRC, etc. Too much. Audience members that have gone away, how has your travel experience changed? Well, obviously we know it has changed, but what was it like to have to prepare all of that stuff in advance and on the back end of your trips? Like, has it made your travel experience more complicated? Do you find that after maybe the second trip, it's a little bit easier for you to deal with? Or are you still like, yeah, no, it's going to be a no for me? Let us know in the comments. And it looks like we have Sheldon Jones who says, you don't let your clothes touch the bedspread. Yuck.
You mean the bedspread that I'm going to be under?
Yeah, I'm wondering about that because especially now, I would think that they're probably taking sanitation a little bit more seriously now because Rona, she's still a thing. But I remember, I don't know if people have seen like those shows where they like go to certain hotels and like see how clean or not clean they are and like just how they don't necessarily wash the sheets. And I was just like,
I came across a movie on Netflix and I didn't actually watch it, but you know how sometimes as you're going through, it starts to do the preview, the trailer. These women went on a trip to, I think it was like Dubai or something, and they stayed in this not so amazing it's not a 5-star hotel, it's like a 2-star hotel, and they decided to pull out the blue light or the black light, and they saw all the fluids
stuff on the bed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, oh, I should take a black light with me, and I'm just like,
I'd never stay in a hotel if I did.
I'd have to stand up sleeping.
I'll sleep on the carpet, and then even that, I have to go buy my own sheets. That's actually something that someone I was having a conversation with was talking about, like bringing their own sheets or buying sheets when they get out there and like changing the sheet set when they go, and then just like leaving their one there for whatever reason. If you know if they were concerned about the cleanliness of the sheets, they definitely said that they would they would consider that. So it looks like we have a few comments coming in, but we're going to take a quick commercial break. Audience, do not go anywhere, because I'm actually going to tell you how many of our local travelers have stayed in their preferred accommodations and what the preferred accommodation is, because it's actually more than 50%. So you do not want to go anywhere. Jackie and I will be right back to continue talking about the Tourism Authority stats for Q2 of 2021.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app, available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
Welcome back to Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. Do remember that for the month of August, you can save 5% on your next order when you sign up for online ordering at pizzahouse.bm. So make sure you do that today. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert, and we are talking about the Tourism Authority's statistics that they have released for Q2 of 2021. We are catching flights and feelings, so even if you haven't been off the island, it's all right, because we're going to get you ready for that, maybe or maybe not. We'll see. So before we took our commercial break, we asked the audience what their preferred accommodations were. Jackie shared that it really depends on her trip. But if we're being honest, she's probably going to go with a hotel because she's bougie. She said it, not me. But
I said it sounds bougie.
Basically, she's bougie. That's what that means. That's how we translate that, guys. Don't worry. I'm a Jackie translator. I got you. 65% of Bermuda's visitors went or they stayed at hotels and bed and breakfasts, which when you think about it, that makes sense, because one of the main reasons that our visitors come to the island is for leisure. It's for vacation. So it stands to reason that you'd want to stay in an accommodation that can kind of take care of all of your needs, so that you don't have to take care of all of your needs, because otherwise, why did you come here for? So I actually wanted to come back to a few comments, because we had a few come in when we took our commercial break. And we have this one from Taja. She is tweeting from BDA Bliss Women, but she did end it with her name. So she said, I traveled to the US recently, and honestly, it was a smooth and efficient process. However, I did have anxiety with the idea of traveling during COVID, but it went well. And that's actually a really interesting thing that we wanted to bring in, because you do hear a lot of the, I guess, horror stories around and you see the videos of people acting out on the planes, and then the flight attendants are turning up, and then it's all chaos. But it looks like there are good moments out there. So although we're seeing the bad things, it's not all bad. So we have a few more comments coming in, Jack. We have this one from Sheldon Fox.
All the things you have to do to travel, unless for business, I feel it's not worth it. Yeah, I had some friends that just came back from away. My best friend is actually from Canada, so she went to visit her family now that they can actually go, and she hasn't been in like 3 years, so she's like, we have to go. You know, her family's getting older, and on the way back, they did their pre-test, they did everything that they needed to do, and they weren't let on their flight.
Because why?
Exactly. So I was just like, pardon. They're just like, yeah, we did everything we were supposed to do. We had the forms, all that stuff, and the lady was just like, yeah, no, you can't get on. So I'm just like, so some people are having power trips, and I've been stuck in an airport in Bolivia. I'm not doing that again. So after hearing that, I was just like, so I will be not traveling for a while.
That's great for our next questions, because I wanted to ask the audience, do you have a preferred airline? And if so, what do you love about it? And this is pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. So if you've traveled in the panorama, let us know if your preferred airlines has changed. And if not, I don't need Jackie to, I mean, if you want to blast them, you can blast that airline if you know. But I definitely think it's interesting because I will be interested to know if it's a airline that people have traveled with previously and had like a really great experience with, and then like because of Rona, things have changed and like now it's like a complete 180. So that would be interesting. I don't know if you.
No, this was definitely a one-off situation. I actually because I used to travel all the time, I always came across the same guy for immigration in Miami as I was going through Miami. So he's like, Ms. Lambert, I get you again. I'm like, yeah. And he's just like, yeah, right. I'm like, I had trouble coming through. This was when I was doing Ecuador the year prior. So he gave me a special piece of paper that he stapled into my passport. You're not supposed to rip it out unless you're an official. So as we're in Bolivia and she's not letting us out, I called him. He's like, if you have any trouble, just call me directly. So I call him. She hangs up on him. I call him again. She hangs up. I call him, and then she actually takes the paper of my passport, rips it out, and tells me that I'm not getting on this flight because you can't go through Miami. I had it with Trinidad as well because the new passports that I've gotten recently, the chip is faulty. So when they scan it, it doesn't come up. It comes up as Great Britain instead of Bermuda, and you got to change all that stuff. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. I've heard the code's different.
Yeah. I've had a few situations, but... I think it's usually the person versus the actual airline.
Gotcha. So audience, as you are joining us or as you're typing, take that into consideration. So what is it about your preferred airline that you love? What is it about your preferred airline that you wish they would do better? Because sometimes I think we pick an airline because we're used to it, but it's not the best anymore. Or it used to be the best back in the day, but now it's not so much. So I want to go back to the preferred accommodations question that we asked the audience, because it looks like Anika DeShields says she likes Marriott hotels. And Karen says, yes, Marriott hotels. She's been a member since she was an employee in the early 90s. I would be interested to know, Karen, do you still get like benefits? Or like as a member, like what are some of the benefits? Because I know that Americans love a little point system, love a little point system. And so Jack, in support of you being a little bougie, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And so we have another comment from Anita. Jack, it's going to be a big one, so it's going to cover our faces, but you can read it still.
Yeah, slightly more complicated to travel. I have to apply for travel authorization by uploading my negative PCR and my vaccine card. I had to call the Bermuda government the day before we traveled as my approval forms were not emailed to me. I was on hold for 90 minutes. They were emailed and we got their test upon arrival at the airport and had to stay on site at the hotel until the negative test result came in. Test on day 4, not a big deal. Very happy to be able to have traveled to Bermuda. Yes, I'm happy that you were able to finally come visit us again. It's been like 5 years.
Well, see, listen, we need to continue to keep the travel going, y'all. Continue to keep the travel going. And so it looks like Karen says that Emirates is her favorite airline. I've actually never traveled Emirates. Have you?
No.
Where did they're not in Bermuda, right? Is that like a U.S. one? Karen, where's that one?
I thought like whenever I think of Emirates, I think of like going to Dubai or somewhere in the UK.
Somewhere on the eastern side of the world. Absolutely. I was like, wait, I've seen it. I've seen it. I will say that I have seen it. So I do want to get to some more comments because it looks like Sean Smith says, I fly on any plane that gets me to my destination. Clearly, you are an easy to please traveler. So definitely.
I usually sleep, so I don't really care. My worst experience on a plane was Air India. I went to put my seat back and the arm piece came off my armrest, and I was just like, just gonna put that back there. And I just rolled over my back seat on the window. I was just like, we're just gonna stay here.
That's funny. So I'm actually looking at the time, and it looks like we are literally just about out of time. So we're actually gonna bring in some more comments before we get into our feel good vibe of the day, and we're gonna obviously do a part 2 because we didn't even share with you all of the stats that the BTA released. So do make sure you come back for another catching flights and feelings episode with Jackie and I, because I love to talk about travel, even though I haven't traveled recently. To answer the question around Emirates, they are not in Bermuda. They go to Dubai or Africa. Okay, so that makes sense. And I
got it right, guys.
Karen said it was points when it comes to the Marriott thing, points in their restaurant, shopping, upgrades for hotel. It's not the same everywhere, though, and that's interesting to know. So, Jackie, it is joke time. Let's send the audience off with some feel-good vibes of the day. I'm going to try to guess the answer to the corny question. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. That one's real. I'm not going to use that one. How do you find a princess?
How do you find you kiss her? No.
How do you find a princess? You can't kiss what you can't find.
Yeah, that's true. How do you find a... I don't know.
You follow the footprints.
What? Because like Cinderella?
Prince? The prince. Like, instead of saying Prints is... Right, exactly.
Okay, boy.
Okay, why can't aliens make a trip?
Why can't aliens make a trip? Then I got one eye.
Because they don't want a planet.
That's a funny one.
Okay, last one, and this one's rude, but we're going to laugh anyway.
She said it's rude. I'm already upset. Okay.
Okay, what do you call a fat psychic?
What do you call a fat psychic? A crystal ball?
A fortune teller.
Oh. Listen, I just can't. And on that,
I like that one because whenever I laugh, you can see my double chin so much more.
And on that note, as always, we hope that today's Feel Good Vibe of the Day has you ready to make it a great one. Thanks for watching this episode of Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert. We trust we'll see you tomorrow for another Feel Good conversation. Until the next episode, peace and have a good day, Bermuda.